Rishi Sunak claims to care about net zero, but does he really? He's just appointed his former aide Claire Coutinho to the brief of energy security and net zero this week, replacing Grant Shapps. Yay! A tough gig to give to a mate. What's in her in tray? Barry, let's start with you. Earlier this year, Coutinho wrote to Sadiq Khan to oppose the ULEZ expansion, which doesn't seem like a great omen for a job which involves reducing emissions.
Can I just point out that Grant Shapps, her predecessor, had written to Sadiq Khan during the pandemic to insist that he did impose the ULEZ. But, look, consistency in government is devoutly to be wished, but not often achieved.
So what do you think of her appointment? This is your sort of department. How much do you know about her and her commitment to these issues and experience and so on?
Straight answer, I don't know her commitment to these issues. I don't think she's on the record as having expressed, a great deal of views on it. But I know what she needs to get on with and do, and that is she needs to sort out the winter crisis that is looming in terms of household energy bills. And she needs to do that in two ways. The first is that she needs to just ramp up the energy efficiency of buildings in this country. There was a time when we were actually insulating hundreds of thousands of buildings a year.
Insulate Britain.
That has gone. We need that because the cheapest energy is the energy you don't use, right? So you've got to insulate those homes. You've got to do the energy efficiency as an absolute priority. And all the schemes that the government has put out for this have failed, and they've acknowledged that they've failed. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that they need to look at what the energy supply companies are doing. And, you've just had one of them, E.ON, that had, a £5 million fine for their failure in customer service. You've got British Gas that's just made a 900% profit on its last year, or over its last year's profit. And yet we have people who literally are in mental health crisis because they cannot afford to feed their children and keep the lights on in their homes. It is not acceptable that these companies are making huge profits at the same time as the very poorest in our society are suffering as badly as they are from all of the cost of living crisis and the energy crisis. The government should extend the windfall tax. We in this country, prior to the windfall tax, the tax that was levied against oil and gas producers in this country was the lowest in the developed world. Not the developed world, the lowest in the world. It was 38%. Now, the average is 74%. Only with the windfall tax do we even get to the average of the rest of the world. So this idea that these companies are overtaxed, and don't forget that all the new development that's going on in the North Sea Basin that they've just allowed, totally against everything that the International Energy Agency says should be happening, everything against what the IPCC says should be happening in terms of new exploration and drilling, that is being paid for not by those oil and gas companies. 91 pence in the pound of that development is being paid by you and me as taxpayers in a tax break that we are giving to the oil and gas producers. Now, they're contributing 9 pence in every pound spent on that development, and they're getting 100% of the profits. Why are we not? Why are the poorest people in our society who are paying their taxes having to subsidize those energy companies? It is simply wrong. And, I welcome a new Secretary of State coming in, but she needs to understand that people in this country are hurting badly, and it's their energy bills that are causing it.
The government's flagship energy security bill is returning to the Commons 14 months after it began, with several concessions to Green skeptic backbenchers. What sort of shape is it in?
Well, the amendments that were put through, which would have been positive amendments, were all voted against by the government yesterday when the bill went through. So it's not in a good shape. And I just hope that, down the other end, their lordships are able to do that sterling job that we talked about earlier and actually send it back to us. Let's just take one of the things that even the Conservatives have been fighting amongst themselves over. And that's if you take onshore wind. Okay? What is that costing the British economy? It's been calculated that is costing the failure to press on with onshore wind, which is the cheapest form of energy production that we have. It is, of course, carbon neutral. It's a renewable form of energy. The cheapest that we can possibly have. The failure to implement that, we're told, is costing £182 on every person's bill in this country each year. £5.1 billion a year. Now, that is just madness. And this government are still arguing amongst themselves as to whether they should allow it and under what conditions. And a fudge was done so that the amendment was dropped. And, both sides will go away and claim victory, right? But nothing will actually get constructed. The onshore wind that we need to power this country will not happen as a result. And this is just why we really need vision here. You started off, asking me about Ed Miliband. He has had this vision since 2008. He understands this. And that's why we really need a government that's going to come in and just drive it forward.